can really look at within our businesses on how do we implement retail, how do we implement technology, and also how do we implement e-commerce as well. So my three guests on the panel today, first of all, I would like to introduce Gay Wardell, owner and founder of Gay Wardell Education. Gay Wardell is a businesswoman, coach, mentor, and internationally recognised speaker and educator. In 2015, she was awarded Educator of the Year at the Australian Beauty Industry Awards. Gay's passion is skin analysis. She drives this agenda both nationally and also internationally. Through her dedication and her commitment to learning and teaching others, Gay has established herself as one of the most respected icons in the illustrious skin and beauty industry. Her work as an educator and practitioner was celebrated in 2014, where she was inducted into both the ABIA Hall of Fame and also Reed Exhibition Hall of Fame as well. Welcome, Gay, to the panel today.
Thank you, Sarah, and it's great to be here. I just want to give a big thank you to Australia Beauty Expo Online. Thank you for keeping us live and keeping this industry going. And I'm really excited about this panel this morning. I'm excited to be working with you again as well, Sarah.
Thank you so much. And Gay's actually on holidays at the moment and giving up her morning for the second day in the row, and also tomorrow as well. True dedication to the industry. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
I'm really looking forward to it today. My second speaker on the panel is Daniel Dixon, CEO of DMK Australia and also New Zealand. Daniel saw the opportunity to bring DMK to Australia 22 years ago, and since its inception has been awarded the most successful branch of DMK worldwide for the last 15 years. Daniel and Debbie's enthusiasm and dedication to change lives of the individuals have firmly established their business, providing services close to 300 skin clinics across Australia and New Zealand. I hear such wonderful things about DMK, I have to say, Daniel, and I see such great results on Instagram and also Facebook with before and afters. So congratulations. I'm really looking forward to having you on the panel today.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. And looking forward to these topics. They're obviously very, very topical right now, and looking forward to sharing some knowledge on that.
Thank you. My third speaker today is Nancy Abdul, clinic educator and Australian Dermal and Laser Institute. Nancy is an independent keynote speaker and educator in the dermal aesthetics realm, whose passion lies in aesthetic devices and speaking off-label about combination therapies. Nancy has performed over 200,000 plus successful in-clinic treatments, consultations, and also test patches, ensuring Nancy's in-depth training is relevant within the clinic or salon. Nancy's passion to inspire, to grow, to lead, and also succeed in businesses, salons, or clinics with integrity and high ethics. Her results-driven and scientifically based treatment gives participants the confidence to interact with patients and clients in knowledgeable, credible, and a positive and meaningful way. Welcome, Nancy, to the panel. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Sarah. Thanks for having me. And also, I'm really excited to be sharing my knowledge with yourself and the audience. And so great to be here. And thank you for connecting us, Beauty Expo. That's amazing what we're doing here online.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And I just want to also say a personal thank you for all of the effort that you put in during COVID to really rallying the industry around. You were amazing, particularly in Melbourne, and getting politicians involved in fighting for our cause and also fighting for women in the industry. And I've actually not personally thanked you for that. So I just want to say that was a lot of time and dedication, and you were really there right from the beginning, making sure everyone's mental health was really good, keeping everyone really active. So thank you for being such an inspiring person in our industry.
That was the least that I could do, but yeah, thank you for that recognition. I really appreciate it. It was hard work, but very rewarding, making sure that everyone's inspired and motivated. It's really important.
Yeah, especially for Victorians when they were in lockdown for such a long time. So thank you. So thank you everyone for joining me. The first session I would like to discuss is the importance of retailing skincare and what are some key considerations in choosing the skincare range that you prescribe within your clinic. As a business owner, I think the skincare range is about the connection that you have within the business, but it's also about the connection that you have to your clients as well. And with such a vast range of industry experience, the three panelists are really going to bring a different point of view to each of this. So the first question I want to actually put to is to Daniel, and that is, what are the financial benefits of implementing a really good skincare range within your business?
I think whenever you make a decision like that, you said it before, you need to be looking at the partners you're with. And so to me, it's a personal thing first. Knowing that you believe in what they believe in is very, very important. And second of all, the fundamentals of the business is so important. So pricing yourself right, I've been going on about this for a long time. Unfortunately, our gorgeous people in the industry often don't value themselves as much as they should do. And people are more than happy in other specialities to charge $450 for a 15-minute session, and we can't charge $250 for an hour and a half. The education levels that our guys go through are huge, and the ongoing education. So I think the financial side of things is very, very important to take into consideration. You know my love for numbers, and so therefore I want to make sure if someone's working hard and going to trainings on Sundays and everything else, that they value themselves appropriately. I think the really important thing I do is called pricing for profit. It's just running a line through your treatment menu and putting a dollar value to it per minute. So therefore, if something takes 15 minutes and you're charging $15, that's $60 an hour. Yet some people tell me they're supposed to be functioning $110 to $140 an hour, and their price list is saying that they're actually valued at $60 an hour. So to me, pricing for profits is all about making sure that your per minute basis and the treatments you're doing, the home prescriptives you're selling, line up with what you need to earn in your business. And if it's only $40 an hour, great. I can't see that happening, by the way. But it's very, very important that we don't just say things, oh yes, we're going to function $150 an hour and we're priced. If we were booked out the whole time with a 15-minute session at $15, it means we'd be losing money. So just look at your treatment menu, run through everything, turn it to an hourly rate. And if that hourly rate is what you need to justify, well, let's hope you're busy doing that service. More importantly, if your services are in your appointment book and you are busy doing them and they are not priced at the hourly rate you need, you will not be making money. So the treatments, the home prescriptives, everything needs to come into consideration. And financial modeling is very, very important when you're choosing a brand. First of all, you've got to be able to charge that. The results have to be there. The client expectations need to be met. And that's why the price needs to be married to what you need to make your business work.
Do you recommend to businesses that they look at a certain percentage? So for example, in my business, I always try and aim for either a 50-50 split. So 50% of services and 50% of retail, or sometimes depending if I've sold courses or packages, one week it might be 60% in treatments and 40% in retail. But generally, I like to actually set that up at the beginning of the week. So for example, on my booking system, I can see what my treatment targets are going to be for that week. And so my treatment targets are X. So I know that I need to have prescription sales that will be X for the rest of the week.
Yeah, great question. I think, unfortunately, a lot of our industry shy away from doing this sort of work. The forecasting is very important to know, how does my week look? How hard do I need to work on, getting other people in? How much do we have to call people in advance to say, haven't seen you for a while? But I think 50-50 is awesome. I love you. 60-40 is probably where most non-shopping center places get to. And 70-30 is also not so bad. I get more concerned when people are doing so many treatments and not selling their home prescriptives, because the home prescriptives should be the cream on top that allows the business to then platform through. 50-50 is what most shopping centers get to, or even 60-40 the other way, where they're doing a lot of retailing and not so much treatment programming. I would say this, but percentages don't pay the bills. You need to look at your margin. You need to look at the dollars you're making on treatments. So you can make 100% markup on something that you signed for 25, wholesale for 25, sell for 50. Okay, you're making 100%. Or you can have something you buy for $36, retail for $68 with a 75 or 80% margin, and you're making $32 versus 25. What do we want to make? It's not percentage, and this is a big thing in our industry, and we don't look at it enough. Percentages don't pay the bills, dollars do.
Thank you. As a panel member, I might just explain a little bit more about while we're talking about this, how I set up my week, if that's all right with everyone, because I think it is really important. And that is that every single week, I actually start with the week and I know exactly what my target is for the week. Then I forecast that 4 weeks in advance. So I know my target is X. I look at this week, I look at the next week and the following 2 weeks. So I know exactly what needs to be filled in regards to treatments. And that comes down to technology, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And then from there, I break that down again. And I think, okay, well, what's my prescription retail? So how much do I need to make with my prescription retail in order to actually make my target? And what you were saying before, Daniel, and coming back to it, is that you need to have a look at implementing skincare that has a really good margin. So you're actually building that profit back into the business. And what I'll talk about in just a moment and pass on to you, Gay, is as a practitioner, why is selling retail really important for our clients? Because it's not just about the sales aspect, it's about what we're doing for our clients, but the two of them link together. And whilst we all love the industry, we're not having a business just for the love of it. We are business owners or we are clinicians to make money. And I think that's really, really important, but they do still need to actually link together. So Gay, my next question is to you, and that what is, as a practitioner, and what are the benefits to the clients of actually prescribing retail to them?
That's a really good question, Sarah. And it's something that really concerns me within the industry, because when you look at the stats, retail in most clinics is reasonably low compared to what their treatments are. And that's exactly what Daniel said before. You know, to me, prescribing skincare is the core of any business. So we have to have that, we have to prescribe it. And we have to realize that the prescriptions support the partnership between the clinic and the home, what they're doing at home. And this partnership enhances the results that are being achieved in the clinic. So what we do as treatments in the clinic is just a small part. Well, it's not a small part, but it's a part of what we can achieve. And if they're not supporting this at home, then we kind of lose our insurance policy, so to speak, a little bit. So the home maintenance program supports the treatments that's provided in the clinic. And we've already discussed the percentages. Like I think if we can have 50-50, that's amazing. But, you know, 60-40, 70-30 is basically, if we look at good clinics that are doing good retail, that's probably where it sits most of the time. Yeah, I discourage treating clients who don't engage in a program that includes prescriptives. You know, if they don't want to do that, then, you know, I'd prefer to say no. Let's do something that's not going to create any changes to your skin. Let's do something that's fluffy. You know, skincare is so important. If they don't want to get results that are achieved, then they're not going to use it. They're not going to get the results that we're trying to give them. So clients report that they aren't getting results are almost 100% of the time not feeding their skin properly. So when we talk about nutrition, you know, I talk internally and I talk topically. There's two parts to nutrition. So we've got to understand what we're putting in our body, how we're feeding our body. That, yes, it's going to have an impact on the skin, but we also have to understand what we're feeding the skin. And I call it food for the skin. I call it nutrition for the skin. And that's really important. If they're not feeding their skin properly, then, you know, they're not going to get the results. So if we're doing a treatment on them, and they go and use something like Dr. Luann or, you know, L'Oreal or any of those brands that we talk about, any product that they can buy online themselves and prescribe themselves, that is really a concerning point to me, because I just want to make sure that I'm providing what they need, not they're deciding what they need, or they're looking online and they're doing price comparing. That really concerns me. So it's important that we educate our clients about feeding their skin so that it is healthy. You know, that's really important. And we can only do this when we ourselves know the products and we prescribe the actives that are affected in obtaining the optimal results. So to answer your question just quickly, Sarah, it's everything. You know, if we don't have good home prescriptives, we're not going to get the results that we want to achieve. And it's concerning that people that do treatments, that don't retail, and they're not getting the results, how can they retain their clients? Because
Yeah,
the
that's
client else until they get a result.
and I love what you said before about if the client doesn't commit to some form of a program or some form of skincare, then do more of a fluffy treatment where they really won't get the results. Because if they're not prepped on the right skincare range and they're not using the right skincare range at home, then how can you back that up with really good clinical treatments? And they're ultimately going to be saying to you, I'm not seeing the results that I wanted to achieve with my skin. And that always comes back on us, but yet they're not actually using the right home care range. And so I think using the two in tandem with one another is really, really key.
It's so right, Sarah. And you hear people say, "Oh, that doesn't work," or "That doesn't work." Why doesn't it work? Why isn't it working? If they had the correct prescription, it's going to work. It can't not work. So to me, home prescriptors is my insurance policy. I mean, you wouldn't jump in a car and drive it without having insurance. Why do a treatment if you're not going to have insurance? And that is your insurance policy.
Exactly. And that actually brings me to my next question to Nancy, is why, when you're doing clinical treatments as an educator, why is using home care or prescribing the correct home care, why is that so important?
Well, just adding on to what Gay was saying, absolutely, spot on there, Gay. But further to that, if we're creating, a trauma within the skin, which most of our devices do inflict within the skin, inflammation and obviously heat, or if not, it's not heat, then it's a mechanical trauma. We're wanting to make sure that, yes, we're going to get the optimal result, that their skin cells are in their actual peak. They're going to perform to the best of their ability. But not only that, also with downtime, a skin that's actually lacking in ATP, for example, is not going to recover like a healthy skin will. So, recovery, reducing the incidence of post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, in particular in your darker Fitzpatricks. And so that's just a given that if we're going to be creating these wounds or trauma within the skin, that the skin has to be adequately be prepped to ensure, the optimal results, reduced, side effects or complications. And it is a win-win, actually. And I think in that sense, then we're not actually selling a product to a client, but we're actually complementing their take home with the actual modality that we're doing in clinic too. So it's not a sell, it's just a given.
100%. And I think it comes with age as well, is that the longer I've been doing this and the more you realize that if they're not prepped on the right products, that ultimately you're going to be responsible for that. I often say to clients, if you're not going to use the home care that I prescribe, I'm really sorry, I can't do the treatment, because it always comes back. And as a practitioner that if they're not prepped on the right products, if they're not using the right home care, then they're going to be back in. They're not going to be happy with the results. We're putting ourselves and their skin in danger by actually not prepping their skins. And it really is it's about, as a clinician, what is our responsibility versus also what is their responsibility as well.
If I can add one thing to that, it's a really important word, is expectation and accountability. And a lot of owners who are online are generally the main breadwinners for the business, and they don't expect their staff to be prescribing. Now, I say that because they feel bad or they feel like they're being pushy. The concern there is that if you know how to revise their skin and you know what this person needs, you're actually ripping them off if you don't tell them exactly what they need. And you're starving them of that result. So one thing I'd encourage owners to do, and managers, is everyone should have the expectation on self to make sure that they are accountable, to ensure that every client is being given the opportunity for great skin. And I think there's a wonderful line there. And I say this to our guys all the time. It's probably the easiest thing to say. But if you are passionate about the skin industry and getting results, and you know the tools that you're working with, whether it be devices, home prescriptives, formulations, professional treatments, etc., if you know what you've got works, why wouldn't you give everyone the chance for great skin? And so the last thing I would say is, it's a very easy question. If you see someone who's not looking after their skin, say to people, I would love to take care of your skin, because it's the easiest thing. Who doesn't want to be taken care of? And the other thing we've got to remember is when they pick that phone up to make an appointment, They are not calling for an hour and a half of their time to be wasted with an underwhelming result that doesn't provide results, that they don't have not just the value, the aesthetic appearance and the functional skin getting better. They don't come there for a $99 treatment. They come there for a reason. If you don't know that, that's the concern.
Definitely. And one of the topics that we actually touched on yesterday, Gay, was how do you keep your clients? Well, for both of us, one of the things that we both said is that a lot of our clients have been seeing us for 10, for 20 years. Well, why is that? The reason for that is because we get great results, we get great skin, and that's what actually keeps your clients coming back into the clinic, because when they're seeing you for good results, they don't need to go elsewhere. And I think that is a whole rebooking almost within itself, is that you've got happy client, you're implementing different retail and also treatments as well, but you've got a really good rebooking system, and that is about making a successful business.
Yeah.
So the next question I want to talk about in discussing retailing, for many salons that may be considering or thinking about introducing another skincare range, or maybe during the lockdown of COVID, they reanalyzed their business as well, or for future business owners. And this question's to you, Daniel, is what are some key factors that you should consider in partnering with a skincare brand within your business?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is take the brands out of the situation, take the people out of the situation. You need to understand what your positioning is. So positioning is all, what am I famous for? So if someone looked across the road at your shop, your clinic, your facade, your building, whatever it may be, they should be able to know what you're famous for instantly. So if you look over there, and I always say that you've got the lady lay on the beach like this with a lovely frangipani in her hair, and they say, down the bottom is specializing in this, waxing, manicures, pedicures, and it gives you the whole gamut. This is all about specializing, not generalizing. And so specializing and knowing what you're famous for will then decide which partner I can go with. I am not going to put Dove 1/3 moisturizing. See poor Dove and L'Oreal, they're getting bashed up here. It's only because it's a different market to us. And there has been a very big specialization in the last 10 or 15 years. Massage do massage. Manis pedis do manis pedis. Cheaper and better than anyone we can do, okay? At the same time, beauty and skin is slowly separating. And we do a lot of transformation work in our business of taking people from an 80% beauty business to a 30% skin business, and then slowly think, I'm not busy anymore. The 30% revenue in skin is creating 2 times more than what the 80% was, with a lot less work, and slowly they transition into that. So to me, this is not just about the brand. You can only walk hand in hand down the aisle when you know that what I said this before, but this is a Simon Sinek thing. What they believe in, you believe in, and vice versa. So if it's about education, if it's about results, fantastic. If it's about relaxing massage, facials that put people to sleep, do that. So it probably leads to another question about what brands do you have? It's what you specialize in. If you're a generalist, you'll have 4 or 5 brands. If you're a specialist, you'll more than likely have 1, maybe 2.
Yeah, I love that answer. Thank you.
Can I just add to that, if you don't mind? Yeah, I think when you partner with a skincare brand, I think there's a few things that we've really got to look for as a clinic owner. There are things that I look for. What is the culture in my clinic? And what are the core values that influence the culture of my clinic? So, I have to have a look at the brand that I'm going to partner with to see if their core values and their culture align with what I'm doing. Because if it doesn't, then our partnership's not going to work. So that's really important to me. It's core values, culture, and also, do they meet the needs of my clientele? So I have to look at my clientele. What is it? What do they need? So I've got to make sure that I have a brand that's going to meet the needs of that clientele. And then the other thing that I look for is the support, the education. Now, most skincare companies will give you amazing education with their products. But, for me, I want to look beyond that. So I want to look for what business support will I get? What are they going to help me to actually develop my business? Do they have that part of their training? And, what kind of other support will they give me in terms of, when I look at culture, how are they going to give staff development and self-development? So there are 3 things that I really look for: is education on products, self-development, my staff development. Then I look for the core values and culture that company has as well. It all has to align, and then the products have to align with what I want to deliver.
Yeah, really agree with that, and thank you. What about for you, Nancy? How do you feel? Because you're in so many different clinics and you're obviously seeing so many different skincare ranges, plus you also have your own skincare range as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So Skindividual still in its infancy and it's developing. And so I wanted to, again, add to what both Daniel and Gay were saying is looking for a range that is also evolving. You know, technologies, the devices are evolving, but so too are ingredients and the delivery systems as well. So yes, making sure our visions and, we're all always going to be aligned with our skincare range in that partnership, but also making sure that, there is an evolution and evolvement of that range. So I think, forward thinking is a real thing, and making sure that, the efficacy, the results, it's a results driven skincare range. There's no point in going back to devices, a traumatic treatment and someone getting, I don't want to name brands, but over the counter or price line vitamin. Oh, they've got, hey, I've got a vitamin C. And you look at the ingredients and it's like 2%. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
So efficacy, results, and that forward thinking.
Thank you. And I think that's so true, isn't it? Like when clients come into you and they're like, I just bought this at Priceline, or I just bought this at a department store. And my aspect is that, how can a product that is not prescribed by a clinician with very good cosmeceutical ingredients that have clinical data to back it, how can that even compete with an off-the-shelf product? And I think that's so important in looking at the retail range that we prescribe and partnering with a skincare range that does actually give us the result that we want to achieve as clinicians or as practitioners. So my next question is, and I think this comes up a lot when I talk to therapists, is what are some effective tips in prescribing or retailing products? And something that you touched on earlier, Daniel, is that a lot of therapists have this fear of prescribing or selling to our clients. They have that fear of rejection. And from what we've sort of said as a panel, we're obviously all very good at prescribing, but there are a lot of people that are still really fearful of that. What are some tips in overcoming that fear? And for the therapists, what is the best way that they can prescribe skincare without thinking that they need to feel bad for prescribing it?
Is that for me? I'm happy to go.
Yes.
Great.
Sorry.
I love this for the fact that I actually think, let's put calcium ascorbyl phosphate, let's put, all these major ingredients we know to the side, because your clients are confused already. So let's not talk to them on that level, thinking that they're going to think we're just amazing, because you'll confuse them and their ears shut up. What you need to do is open up the mind of the client by using language they use. They use it because they're comfortable with it. So when they come in, they'll be talking about, I don't like my freckles here, and I don't like my flaky skin around my nose, and see this big wrinkle around my eye. If you start saying to them, oh yes, you've got some pre-auricular area, they're going to say, which word are you talking about? And they'll lose what you're talking about. So what you do is use language they use. And then what you can do is gain credibility by drawing comparisons to what you know. For example, they don't come in and say, I've got some degeneration in my perioral area, or they just say, I've got wrinkles in my upper lip. Okay, so what you should say, that wrinkling on your upper lip or your perioral area, you just start drawing comparisons to areas. So you can say, I'm the professional, but I'm going to come and talk on your language as well. The other thing you need to remember is you've got to find out what is the number one reason they pick that phone up today. A lot of people go on autopilot, and this is a big criticism I've got of the generalist therapist who goes through what's in my column today. It's not a column, it's an opportunity list. Okay, so when you sit down there and you see those people, the opportunity today is to please that person on why they are parting an hour and a half of their time and probably $300 or $400 with you if you hit all the marks. So drawing comparison to the language they use is very important, and then repeating that to them. So if I understand correctly, your main concern today is the devolumization or the wrinkles in this upper lip area. Are you saying that you'd be happy if I made this area look like this area? Yes, I am. Great. Well, are you okay to understand it? How long's that been there for? Oh, maybe 7 years. Okay, so it's pretty unrealistic to think that today's treatment only is going to do that. Are you okay if I prescribe you a program that I'll present to you? It might be an 8 to 10 week program. We can reassess after 6. And let's start looking at your blueprint of your body, which is the top of your breast, your neck, or your side of your cheek, if they're happy with that. And we'll start to draw the comparisons to the lip area to make it look as good as this or this, because that's your genetic blueprint. What I need you to do is to do certain things at home each day, as Gay said before, to feed the skin appropriately. I'll need to see you once a week to re-educate your skin to function in a certain way. And if you're committed to that, I'm happy to sort of get that result for you. And they start to go, oh, that sounds, where do I sign up? Because you're using language, they said, the area here of the upper lip, you've drawn comparisons to what the result they could achieve. You've given them expectations on how long it's going to take and the commitment they need to partake in as well.
Can I just say, because I was making a few notes as you were talking, is one of the things that you need to do when you're programming, and like you said, I'm going to put you on a program that does this, this, and this, is actually rebook them to reassess their skin in X amount of time and make sure they're staying onto that program. It's a little bit like going to a personal trainer. You wouldn't just go to a personal trainer and then be let go for the next 8 weeks and expect to have this amazing diet and exercise regime. You've got to, as their therapist or as their clinician, be accountable for the way their skin changes and make sure that they're backing that up at home. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah.
Can I just add to that, Sarah? If that's okay. I think another really, all of those points are so important, but another key thing to prescribing and selling skincare is knowledge. Like, we have to have knowledge. We've got to have knowledge of the skin. We've got to have knowledge of the treatments that we provide, and we've got to have knowledge of our actives. And to me, like, when I say, because I get to work with a lot of people, and I talk to them and I ask them about what they're using or what, and they go, and they'll talk basic. They're really basic. They don't really understand what they're talking about, really, if you delve into it. And, you know, and I've been on the end of importing and distributing a skincare myself. So I know what it's like to be out there as a distributor of a skincare range. And I know the amount of effort that it goes into to provide training days and to get people to come along. And then you put all these lovely days on, and then a couple of weeks later, you get a phone call from someone saying, you know, can you help me with this? And I think, well, you know, yes, I can, but that was covered. You know, and I think what we have to do if we're in the skin business is learn, keep learning. And if we've got working with companies, whatever they are, a skincare, equipment company, whatever they're doing, and they provide training, go along, support it. Because if you don't support it, they're going to stop doing it. And then you won't have any training. We rely a lot, well, a lot of people I see rely a lot on Facebook education. And that to me is one of the biggest concerns in this industry. You know, someone putting up a post and a picture. What is this? How can I treat this? What is that? Like, how can we give, you know, no one should be giving advice on that, number one. You know, look, you don't know the history of that person. So how can you give advice? So I think we have to sort of think about, how are we learning? What is our knowledge? Where are we going to for that knowledge? Is it just getting information from a lot of random people that create this thread? Or is it actually knowledge from people that have thoroughly investigated and learned themselves about what they're teaching? Yeah, and I think that's part of effective selling as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Thank you so much. What about you, Nancy? What are some of your tips with effective selling or prescribing skincare?
Of course, as an educator, education's, you know, like a number one. And I always say you're only as good as your educator or your trainer too, right? So making sure that you do, you know, have an educator that is knowledgeable and abreast of all, you know, new developments. And making sure that, again, you know, that the ingredients are going to be supporting what we're doing in clinic as well. So having the knowledge of key ingredients, you don't have to necessarily know every ingredient, but as long as you're aware of the core ingredients and what physiological change that's going to make in the skin, that enables you to perform these treatments efficaciously and without all that downtime or reduced downtime and reduced incidence of, you know, post-inflammatory, say, hyperpigmentation. Yeah.
So as a trainer, for not so much for the business owners, but more for the therapists, what is the best way of them learning the ingredients or the products? So I think as a business owner, you always take accountability to ensuring that you know the skincare lines that you use, both in the retail sector and also in the professional sector as well. But what about for the therapists? What's the best way of them knowing and understanding the products that they're prescribing? Because I think there's actually quite a miss in that.
I know when we had our clinics, so we had a number of clinics across, Melbourne. So we had 15 locations, so lots of staff to deal with. And how do you get them all, trained up and educated? So on a weekly basis, we used to have quizzes that each therapist will, come up with on certain weeks, and they'd have a key ingredient. They'd have to research it and quiz their peers, and whoever got the most points by the end of the month, they were able to then, acquire or get whatever product they wanted. So doing their own research and getting them excited about an ingredient is obviously, quite up there. And also having the rep coming in to share that knowledge is also really important. And there's nothing wrong with investing a few hours a week. I know, you may not be taking because of the, you're not performing treatments during that time, but I think that education is really important because it will come back tenfold when they're able to prescribe the appropriate, product.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. What about you, Gay? What do you do for your staff to ensure that they have really great knowledge about the skincare that they prescribe?
I love to have staff meetings and put them on the spot and give a presentation.
Right.
Tell us about this. Tell us about, what skin you would use that for. What are the active ingredients in there? Why do we need to have that? And every time I have a team member that goes to an education, that's one of the things they know when they come back. They're going to have to sit down and give a presentation on what they've learned. But I think that on-the-spot training is really important because they haven't got time to go off and research it. Hang on, you know this stuff, you should know it. So that's one of the things that I love. It can be like we get the shaking and we get the quivering and you are so nasty, but let me tell you, it works. They learn.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your input into retailing. It's such an important part of the business, and like we discussed in the beginning, it's 40 to 50% of what your entire business actually is. So that then from retailing leads us into the next section, which is actually e-commerce and selling online. When due to COVID-19 and lockdown, obviously last year, and businesses came, or face-to-face business came crashing down, everyone talked about the importance of selling online and how are we going to prescribe retail products. And I know for me, a lot of people said to me, you have to go online. E-commerce is absolutely the future. But as a business owner, to have an e-commerce business or to be able to sell your products online, it's expensive, it's time consuming. And a lot of my clients said to me post-lockdown, I don't actually want to buy products online because I have a very key prescription system. They wanted to be part of that prescription system still. So whilst my website does have an online component to it, it really isn't a huge part of my business. Now, I think as business owners, there is always a pressure to feel that you need to have an online or an e-commerce store as part of your business. But I wanted to put it to each of the panel. So first of all, Gay, because I know we spoke about this yesterday, is do you see e-commerce as an essential part of a business?
I absolutely don't, Sarah. I think it can actually change your business structure. I think it can have the adverse effect on how you develop and grow your business. One of the drawbacks for online retail is that you cannot stand out from the crowd by establishing your brand. And you don't have that personal touch. So, people sure they can do a consultation online, they can send photos, you might do a phone call, but it's not the same as someone coming in and having a consultation. While, and then there's competition with products, the discounts, so they can sell more. They'll apply discounts to that so they get bigger sales. They're not building a community of clients. they're building a community of home shoppers and retailers. Not retailers, home shoppers and buyers. That's what they're doing. They're not creating a rapport with their clients. And it really frightens me that people are selling skincare online. One thing is, it's the same as going to Facebook and putting a photo up.
Yeah.
How can I actually help you with this? You know, and they're not coming into the clinic so they can actually see what you've got to offer. You're not building that rapport with them. And I think that's one of the biggest things. So I think it's a huge disadvantage with people selling skincare online. For me, I always look for a company to work with that won't do that, because it's taking away from my professionalism. I've studied long and hard to be able to treat skin, and I continue to do that, as many people do. You know, as an educator, you have to do that. But, you know, I just find that what is that for? They can Google it, they can read it themselves, they can find out apparently what type of skin they've got, they can find out what this lesion's all about, and then they'll just go and buy the skincare for it. And then often you'll find that whatever they bought it for is actually gotten worse.
Yep, I agree.
So it's not doing us any good having an e-commerce, having a shop online. Like I said to you yesterday, Sarah, I do have one, but you know, that's for incidentals. It's not nowhere. Well, I'm not allowed to anyway with the skincare that I use, but no way would I have that online. And I appreciate the fact that the brand that I work with don't allow it, because it keeps us professional.
Yeah, I agree. And for my my e-commerce on my website is, like I said, whilst I have it, a lot of my clients don't use it as part of their online, they don't prescribe to themselves and purchase. But what I did actually set up that works really, really well is a click and collect. So if they run out of a product, they can select the product, it gets emailed through to the business, and then when they're coming in to the clinic, then they can actually pick up their products. In saying that, because I work so much with prescription and I often change what they're using, then when they come in on the day, I'll change it anyway, depending on where their skin's at, because the skin changes depending on their stress levels, it changes seasonally. So I think part of the rapport that we have as therapists or clinicians is we have that touch, we have that sight. So ensuring that our businesses are still active really means that we need to have that rapport with the clients. I think that's really, really key.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Can I just add to that? That mobile commerce is really, you know, if we put mobile commerce and we put email commerce, e-commerce side by side, mobile commerce is the way to go, because that is that click and collect. That's how we survive. That's how all of those companies have done really well. And I think that mobile commerce is probably something we should be looking at rather than having a shop online.
Yeah, I like that mobile commerce. Daniel, the question to you is, do you see e-commerce an essential part to small business, and why or why not? And what could be provided instead of an e-commerce?
So let's break that down. The first part, going to small business, let's say very specifically the skin business, because small business, in some cases, it's very relevant. For the professional skin business, I think it's absolute nonsense. And I'll tell you why. Because if we're going to stay real and relevant to people, I wrote a program a couple of years ago called the P's of Business, and it covered every P in the business that actually you need to consider: positioning, price, place, people, etc. Why would you hire a premises and house people in there if you're going to drive people away and send something out of a warehouse down the road or from your home? I just don't understand it. So if we have a need to sell consumables or items that aren't prescribed, like we said yesterday, candles, whatever it may be, fine. That's essential, and you know that can happen, no problems. But if you're going to position yourself as a specialist and a skincare practitioner who does prescribe, as you said, Sarah, you'll change their prescription and challenge their skin in a positive way as their skin needs to be challenged. You can't do that by even just sending a photo, in my mind. So by staying real and relevant, you've got to make sure people understand that you need to see me, your prescription needs to be updated, your program needs to be checked in on, and you can't do that through e-commerce. I've seen several great businesses fall away. There's another great guy I've done some education with called Dan Dipani. He's a Buddhist monk, and his speciality is around the art of distraction. And to me, e-commerce, for a lot of business owners, they don't understand it. They think they need to have it to keep up with the Joneses. They get distracted. It takes them doubly as long. They lose money on it, and then they become bewildered because they've lost their way on understanding what am I famous for.
Yeah.
So,
And also, sorry, we just missed that.
I said, so no, I don't think it's essential for the professional skin industry.
So during COVID, because obviously DMK doesn't sell online, what were some aspects that you set up for your clinics that allowed them to still prescribe skincare or sell skincare, but not in an online way? Because I thought this was such a fascinating concept, and I really loved watching the businesses that I knew had DMK that didn't have e-commerce, because it really made the businesses that hold DMK really think outside the box. And I thought that was fantastic.
First of all, we engaged TikTok. We got right amongst the youngies, and we did TikToks about DMK delivered to you. So when we were able to still get out there but not see people, our people were having a lot of fun with this. They were getting in their cars and they were doing so that whole drop off, the COVID safe drop off. We also produced a code for people that allowed them to have, it was like an order form for a repurchasing person. You came through to you, you still analysed and made sure that was the appropriate home care, and it went out to them. It wasn't on websites, it wasn't downloadable, etc. It was still personalised. But what it did, it auto-tallied it for the business owners to make it a bit more convenient. So we sort of moved around on how we thought would still need to stay relevant. There was a time where from April and May, we sold 3.5 years worth of our home mask. Now, our home mask is a very, very strong formulation. We flew this in first class on Qantas because it was honestly that expensive to bring the stuff over here. But 3.5 years of stock in 2 months for our home mask meant that everyone was engaged with our concept. They were still doing their home prescriptives at home. They got conditions such that I call Zoom skin. They were looking at people all the time in meetings. Oh my God, do I look like that? And so they were still very engaged and had more time to look after themselves. And we just did things differently. So we didn't have to succumb to the pressure, although it was requested, of doing e-commerce. We just did things differently. We did offline order forms. And to be honest, some of our businesses went through enormous growth in those times because they were there to service people for what they needed, and they did different. We went through a process called mix and mask, where you started diagnosing home prescriptive treatments that could be done as a mask solution at home. And rather than just saying, oh, okay, let's just go e-commerce, we know what our positioning is. And Mix and Mask and DMK Delivered to You was programs we came out with to help our clinics still stay engaged with their customers. Worked really well.
Wow, that's really, really fantastic. And like I said, I loved watching the DMK businesses do all these sort of different things, particularly on Instagram. Cool. Nancy, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Look, I totally agree. There's nothing beats face-to-face. There's, you need to touch and feel and analyze the skin and prescribe accordingly. However, there are those clients or clinics rather that are in remote locations where there's several hundred, thousands, whatever it is, kilometers away. There are going to be those rare, clinics where, okay, they will need to have an online store, but only in a hidden manner, like Daniel was saying, where there's a code or whatever it might be, but for re-prescribing rather than just for any random person to be able to order as they will. So I do think there is a place, not as broadly as Adore or, whoever else is online. I just think that is ridiculous. And then, how do you wade through the fake products with the real products or the counterfeit products as well? That's another issue with these online stores. So there's lots of issues, but there is a small need for it. And I think, being in, or especially in Melbourne, we were closed for 8 months. So that's where I think that online store, again, not to the general public, but to your particular, clientele, is warranted. So
sorry to interrupt you. Sorry. The other thing that we spoke about yesterday as well is for remote locations, it might be about prepping the skin first. So a client may need to prep the skin with a pigment inhibitor, or they may need to prep the skin with really good skincare before they actually come into a location. So having a component of e-commerce that is done by prescription base, I think is really, really important. And I know, like I said, for me as a business owner, it's expensive. to actually set it up, like you're looking at between $5,000 and $10,000. It's very time consuming. I don't think it necessarily works if it's coming from an outer source. So I think you as a business owner really have to engage with that e-commerce aspect. Like it needs to come from you, because ultimately it's about your business, and e-commerce is an extension of your business. And so I think that if you're thinking about e-commerce, you need to look at all of the different aspects of e-commerce. So that's just my aspect of a business owner. So that then really takes me to the next stage, because we're running out of time, and that is having a look at technologies. And with so many different technology on the market, and this may be anything from laser technologies to IPL, to needling, to skin analysis, it becomes really hard to wade through that and also find a really trusted distributor. And Nancy, this question is first of all to you, is what are the key considerations in selecting the right partnership for your business if you are looking at technology?
Oh, there's actually a number of considerations, and they're all equally as important. But finding a manufacturer or distributor that has got history behind them, and actually is ethical. It's as simple as I could say. Is ethical, and that's the first thing. That they're there for the right reason. They're not here today and gone tomorrow. They've taken your money and not given you that support. There's been several companies that over the last few years, I'm sure Gay and Daniel, you've seen the fly-by-nights. They're here and then they're gone. So just making sure they've got a reputation, making sure their education, the quality of the education is at a particular standard, that you're not just being shown the interface, but you're actually shown how to use it and why, the why behind why we're doing certain things, why you're selecting a particular filter, or why you're selecting a particular needle depth. So not just like I said, device familiarization, but the actual science behind it, the support. So if you have let's say you've got a marketing strategy and you want them to be able to, partner with you and hold your hand to be able to sell that service, you want them to be able to, support you with that. And also, what happens when your device goes down? Are they going to be able to, give you a loan device? If you've got a whole column full of clientele booked in, are you going to be able to get another device within, say, 24 to 48 hours, so you're not losing all of those bookings or having to reschedule? So there's a number of things. I'm sure there's a lot more there. But more importantly than anything else, if you're going to purchase a device that is going to make any physiological change in the skin, ensuring that it is listed on the ARTG. Some people say, they word it as, is it listed or is it ARTG approved? TGA approved rather. So it's an ARTG number. If there is a physiological change being made, we need to ensure that, we're also insured as well. And the device is doing what the manufacturer is saying that it can do. So there's a number of aspects, but they're probably the key ones that I believe in.
And that's just so important, because we're looking at technology that can change the skin. Equally, it can burn the skin as well. So it's really important as a business owner or as a clinician that we fully understand the education behind that. Daniel, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just echoing what Nancy said there. It's not just devices when it comes down to TGA or any of those listings. It's also skincare. Okay, so many people try and bring things in that aren't actually, and they don't have to be TGA listed or even registered. But some ingredients are actually just illegal in Australia. So we've got to be mindful that you're not getting caught up in that. I think the big thing comes back to my positioning. Go with a person or a partner or a company that you believe in what they believe in. So if they are famous for their results and you want results, don't try and bargain on the price, because they're not famous for being cheap or expensive. They're famous for their results. Okay. So if you want cheap, go cheap, but then don't complain that you don't get results. So everything I do comes back to positioning and what you stand for. And, Gay mentioned before about values. I think they're ultimately important. When you make decisions, you've got to be a values-based organisation. And then you choose people to, I was about to say get into bed with then, but in business-wise, get into bed with, that you believe they're going to be there to hold your hand and do the training. And don't be shy to pay for training on a device you've invested a lot of money in. because that's the upkeep of keeping the professional edge that your business has that others don't. So my only thing I would say is choose a device, choose a skincare brand for the same reasons, that you believe in what they believe in, number one. Second of all, that you know that trust and support is going to be there. And more importantly, what they hang their hat on as results or education, that's what you believe in and you're willing to pay for that and partake in that.
Can I just say one thing on that really, really quickly? Sorry. That is to charge exactly what you just said, Daniel. And that means you need to charge accordingly. You cannot
100%.
be investing in very good equipment and investing in your education time and time again if you're not going to charge accordingly for that. And if you provide really good results and if you have really good education, that means you can charge accordingly, because ultimately people want to go where they're actually getting results. And if you get the results, they'll keep coming back.
Just one thing on that. Hence why I don't understand the underarms for $9 and all this sort of stuff in hair reduction. Because when we're doing those things, we're attracting a class of clientele. So again, this is positioning. You define your clientele you want. If you want the person, the old days used to get the $79 vouchers sold by someone on the side of the road, and you got a blow dry, a makeover, a lipstick, a waxing session, all for $79. And the goal was to try and retain that person. But you're retaining a person that's a deal-based person, not a results-based person. So you've got to make sure you understand the intention of you putting out their various classes of pricing will attract that class of clientele.
Can I just say, Sarah, because this is open to can of worms for me.
I
agree with both Nancy and Daniel. And reputation is really important. I've been involved, as you know, for many, many years, educating on equipment as well. And, you know, like there's heaps of things. I could go on here for half an hour, but I can't. There's a few things that people buy these pieces of equipment, then they're not supported by the company. So they pay hundreds, tens of thousands, $100,000 plus this equipment. They get a very short amount of training. And then for ongoing training, they've got to pay another $1,200 or $2,000 or whatever it is to get continued training. So I think it's really important that we actually have a company that is going to provide that ongoing training for X amount of years, like it's an insurance policy. The other thing is I see so many people buy these devices. I go to their clinics, the device is sitting in the corner because they don't know how to use it properly. So they've spent all this money, stressed because it doesn't get used, and it's just sitting there. And the other thing, I told you it was a can of worms, the other thing, people that are using these devices do not understand the skin. They don't know the skin. They don't use products with these devices. They don't use actives with these devices. So they're just going in, they're having an IPL treatment for rejuvenation. They're having a laser treatment for pigmentation. They're taking off a tattoo or whatever, and they do not prep the skin with it. It's just horrible. And it's creating so much bad energy within the industry because we have so many adverse reactions that we see on the current affair programs and things like that. And it's just, you know, it's not everybody that's doing that. It's just the majority. And I guess it's just they haven't been shown or educated well enough that this is what you have to do with your device.
Yeah.
Just have to say that.
Nancy, what were you going to say? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you before.
Oh, no, that's okay. I've just added in the comments there, but there's a couple of device companies out there just providing only online and not face-to-face practical training. And I think this is a service industry. How can you have just online when we're learning, IPL or when we're learning fat cavitation and needling? There has to be a face-to-face component, and just not to cut corners with training. Absolutely no cutting corners there.
Yeah, I agree, because ultimately the more well educated you are about the device that you operate, the better the results that you're going to get. And one of the things that I've seen with my clients, and coming back to you, Gay, what you said before, is if clients aren't prepped both prior to a treatment and also post a treatment, I've often seen where they've come into me and then they're questioning to why I would prep them pre and also post. And it made me realize how many clinics are still not actually prepping their clients, but also that they're doing more treatments because they're not prepping their clients. And, as a clinician, we are accountable to that client to get them the best results for their skin, and not to over treat the skin either whether that be on the day or with too many treatments. And often I see IPL devices where they're sold in courses and packages of 10 treatments, you know, and I'm like, wow, that's a lot of light being delivered into the skin over a 12-month period. So I'm sure you'll agree there, Nancy, because I know that you're nodding.
Yeah, like you see it all the time. Over-treated skin, the over-exfoliated skin, too much, sometimes just too much. So
exactly.
You know, and it comes to knowledge and what they're actually. Pardon?
Sorry, so take into consideration heat shock proteins. You know, what is too much heat doing to the skin? And we know a simple thing like hair removal, you know, a clinic might be doing 20 of those treatments to remove the hair, but if it's hydrated, they might only need 4. So the more hydrated the skin, the better result they're going to get. And I think this overheating, this problem with, you know, stimulation of heat shock proteins is just huge. And we're only just starting to see the, what's happening from all of that. It's horrible.
Yeah, I agree.
World.
I just wanted to quickly just add a couple of things from a business owner point of view. Some of the things that I look at when I'm investing in equipment, and all the equipment that I've ever invested in has always been really, really good equipment. Like that was always my aspect within the clinic. I wouldn't purchase or invest in good equipment unless it was really, really good quality. And coming back to a lot of what you've said is it's the after sales service, it's the after sales training, but also too, when you're investing in equipment, you need to, and also skincare as well, you need to understand how many treatments do you need to provide per month in order to be able to make your repayments on that. And just like you would do a cost analysis for your services, you should also do a cost analysis for your equipment. So how much is it going to cost me within the clinic to be able to provide that service, and how much do I need to charge, and also charge accordingly as well. Also looking at your target market. For me in Beecroft, it wasn't worth my time in investing, my target market as my clients did not want to have ablative laser where they actually had a lot of downtime. So a lot of my equipment, other than one needling device, all has minimal to no downtime. And the reason for that is because I knew that that's not what my clients wanted. So I think it's really, really important when you're investing in equipment to have a look at who is your clientele, who is your target market, and what type of services are you actually going to provide, and working really closely with, as you would a skincare company, working really closely with your device company. And I know for me, I have really great relationships with all of my device companies because I know that I'll always need them in the future for that additional training or ongoing education as well. So just to, because I know I've gone 5 minutes over time, one of the questions that I see all the time, and I'll just put this out really quickly to the panel on the Facebook feeds within the groups, is what is the first technology that I should invest in? And I just wanted to ask this as a wrap up question. So if you're new to a business or if you're new to technology, what is the first piece of technology that you should invest in within your clinic? Nancy, I might put this to you first.
I choose to.
Yeah, okay.
My first and foremost device would be LED. That's just like a really good, building block to other, treatments, whether it's peel, micro, needling, IPL. It's just a really good building block, to build upon with other types of treatments. And secondly, the next building block is needling. So it regulates, it normalizes, it restores, it just helps with self-functionality. And in a it is minimal trauma, but not an overly traumatic way without all the risks that your light-based modalities pose. So they're my top 2.
I agree. They would be my top 2 as well. And as a price point, because I often see that on the Facebook feeds as well, is there a minimal price point that you think that you should look at for an LED? Like, obviously, we've all seen the really, really cheap equipment, but just like skincare, you've got to sit at a certain price point for certain types of technology, and more so for LED here. Is there a certain price that you wouldn't go below for LED?
I think that's a hard one because essentially it comes down to dosage. So what the actual wavelength is, it has to be a specific wavelength. So to target those, ATP, it has to be 633 nanometers, and you've got the amount of energy. multiplied by time, and it gives you the total dosage. So how do you put a dollar, you know, obviously it's a very cheap device, where's the quality, where's the research behind that? And so you need to question, you know, a low-end device like that. So it really comes down to its efficacy and the results it's going to generate.
And proven clinical data, I think.
100%.
Well.
Yeah.
What about to you, Daniel? If there was one piece of equipment, what would you recommend a clinic invest in?
Can I be old school for a second? Only because I'm really passionate about people knowing and understanding the knowledge around operating a device or skincare. I'm going to say accessible education, for the fact that if you're not set up as a training and learning institute, regardless of what device you have there, you're not going to have a person who's knowledgeable enough to understand how to operate it. So I'm a lifelong learner myself, and I think before anything goes into anyone's hands, they need to be able to level, not just done a one-day certificate course. I'm still coming back to accessible education and learning. So whether that be iPads, tablets, computers, whatever it may be, that needs to come first before you put it in the hands of anyone. Give them the knowledge.
Thank you. And Gay, what about to you? If there was one piece of technology that someone should invest in, what would you say?
I'm going to add 2 here, and I'm doing this typically. The first one would be LED. Well, the second one would be LED. The first one would be yourself. Invest in your knowledge. Invest in yourself. Know what you're doing. You know, learn everything you need to know about the piece of equipment that you want to buy. Why are you buying it? What are you going to use it for? You know, what is your why about buying that equipment? That to me is important. And then you have to have knowledge, not just on the equipment, on what are you going to treat it for. So if you're buying it for tattoo, if you're buying it for pigmentation, know that inside and upside down. It's really important. And LED, because you can save your insurance policy with an LED.
I think from that point there, the main concern I've always got is the client safety. And so if you've got a person who understands when the time's to challenge the skin and when the time is not to challenge the skin, trauma can be great, but trauma on trauma can also not be great. So it's very, very important that people know when to press the pedal down. And that's why I think education is most important. Hence why these people are on here today.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Well, I've gone way over time, and I do need to wrap things up. So I'm definitely being told to finish up. So sorry, Flynn. We had so much to say that
no problem. I agree. I think it was such a great session, and I think my key takeaway there was really understanding what your value proposition is for your business and investing in your education and your extended learning before we even start to look at the technologies and the e-commerce part of our business. If you've got that down pat, then you should know what those next steps are. So it was really, really insightful. Thank you all for participating today. I think there's probably people that have plenty of questions and would love more. We will have a recording of this session made available on the website afterwards. But just if anyone wants to reach out to any of the panelists today, we're just going to put in the chat there their details. So for Sarah, if you visit skinbysarahhudson.com.au, Nancy's at dermalandlaser.com.au, Daniel at dmkskin.com.au, and Gay at gaywardell.com. So thank you everyone for your time today. We went a little bit over, but I think it was worth it. So really appreciate it. And also we have one more session tomorrow morning. If anyone's interested in registering for those, you can still do that online today. So thank you everybody.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
And thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Sarah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.